we're just here to shoot the shit and catch up with Zach and see what's been going on in the land of Zach Marshall and Conterra for the last, I think, almost 6 months. It was like May last time we talked, right? 4 or 5 months.
No idea. It's been a while. Yeah,
it's been a minute. I'm excited to hear everything that's been going on, and I think we caught up like offline a little after that too. So I'll probably like merge all those things together. But I'm excited to hear how it all goes. You prepped me with a ton of stuff of everything that's been going on, and I can't wait to hear about it. What's the right place to start, you think?
Oh man, everything. Like startups are crazy, so everybody knows that already, but they are.
Startups are hard.
They're hard, they're crazy, they're fun. It's always encouraging that I have a lot of friends that are going through the same things. So like, I talked to another friend today, who's at his startup that's, not anything what they expected it to be, but it's also doing really well. It's like we're all shifting left and right to stay in business and to keep raising money and keeping our employees happy and also trying to actually get product market fit. Yeah, maybe that's a good place to start. We don't have product market fit. I know that. We're still searching for it, and sorry, 1 second. That was my dog. I will restart with that soundbite, which was, we don't have product market fit, and I know that, but we have learned a ton. We've made money. We have real customers. We fired our first customer, which was a big, meaningful moment because it meant that we are trying to focus. Yeah, so maybe focus is probably that's the big loop that we're on. The company started, if anybody listened to the old episodes, you already know this, but we started with this idea for a labor marketplace for private security. That's physical security and risk management here in the States, in the United States, domestic security like executive protection, risk assessments, IRS 132 assessments, really anything that a corporate security buyer is going to purchase and trying to staff that gig style like Uber, Airbnb. We learned that those folks wanted to be able to spend credit cards, anything under $100,000. They have to go through a large procurement process. Anything over that, some companies that numbers are different. And the first 6 months we built software, and that software was really expensive. I had never hired a technical person before. He did everything he said he would do. I also had no idea what we were doing, and we built a lot of software from scratch. Come January timeframe, we weren't hitting the metrics I needed to hit. We weren't releasing the speed I needed to hit, and that meant that I had to let our tech guy go and shift focus toward services, where we were actually doing consulting, kind of like the Art of the Start book. I forgot the quote, but I think it was like, look, if you got to be a consultant to stay in business, you can be a consultant and keep building your project. And so we did that. We hit 110K, maybe a little more than that now in revenue. We served private. Wealthy families who needed security assessments. We've helped staff some things, some really cool things. We got to work with some really cool people, but under NDAs and so on. That's one of the funny things about security. Almost everything is under NDAs, especially famous people. Yeah. We've had a lot of misses where we tried to hire people, like people called us and asked us to match a gig or a role with a professional. We had the professionals, but there was always a lot of times it became a lot more complicated, which we learned. And honestly, it creates a bigger value prop for a platform, but it also meant that we spent a lot of time doing things that didn't work, and it was for services. So it wasn't doing things that didn't work in the startup platform side. It was it's almost like instead of doing customer discovery calls, we were doing full on customer discovery failures, where we were trying to solve their problem, and then, finding out, maybe I can talk a little bit about some of the things we learned about how the actual transactions happen, how procurement happens, and some of that, creates a bigger value prop. It also means that we have a tougher problem to solve. But then,
I'd love to hear about some of those complexities when we come back there. I know you're in the middle of the summary, but the surprise complications are always good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get into the details because it's really interesting. But the focus of the company, we realized, Kurt and I, a few weeks ago, we were like, man, this has been cool. We've sent invoices, and every invoice comes back for 20 grand or something. It's like, man, that's sweet. Like, this is so cool. We're like making money or whatever. But part of that's because we've never done it before. And so go talk to a third time founder and they'd be like, cool, you're 20 grand. Who cares, man? You're doing venture, like you're doing startups. Like, what you need to do is figure out how many customers you can sign up every month or whatever. And so we've realized that we've refocused on getting the platform out. And for a while I had really been afraid for that moment, because I was like, man, we spent so much money and time trying to get a platform out the first time, and it was wrong. The audience didn't like it. It didn't really work. But then enough of my peers were like, just build it yourself. And so I learned how to build it myself, and using no code, right? Like literally watching YouTube videos. And because everything we're doing is really simple. It's like a job board with some protected content that we're trying to use to help people get motivated to give us more personal information so we can actually vet them and then connect them to jobs, and put their phone number in so we can text them and tell them, hey, this job is for you. It's in your location, that kind of thing. And I can do all of that MVP style, and it looks pretty. But I've been using Webflow, Zapier, Airtable, JetBoost, like the whole, hustle stack. And it's exciting to have that. So I won't put a timeline on this because I've been wrong by leaps and bounds for every timeline, but I expect to have that live soon and actually working. And our focus at the company has shifted back to getting people signed up into a labor marketplace, or at least into a labor job board, with the ability to ask for introductions, which creates kind of us back in the middleman seat, and drive user growth. See how many people we can sign up, and there's competitors that are in each of these little niches that have a lot of people using those sites, and I think already the version I've built that we haven't launched yet does what some of those other sites do better, and our model will make it less expensive for the user. It'll be free for the labor side. So I think we'll get that going.
So, I guess talk about that decision. Like, what drove that kind of swing back from the services focus to shit? We gotta do this platform, right? Like, that's something I see people kind of oscillate on a lot. What was your situation for that?
It's a couple different points. The first, it was very clear that the services it takes up all your time, like all of your time, if not more time than you have. And you're hustling just to make that cash. I think we all know that, right? Consulting literally is a mechanism of time. Like, how much time you have, that's how much you get paid. We build for some things, we literally build on time. Instead of billing the project, we build $450 an hour. Straight up consulting. And that other parts, we built it more like a marketplace brokerage transaction where we took percentage off the top, but we build the whole thing. And we have one customer that's recurring every quarter. So that's kind of cool. But it was all these little experiments, but each one of them just took so much time. It was clear that we were learning a lot from each one, but if we wanted to grow, it wasn't going to work that way. Or it was going to take 20 years, right? Like building a consulting firm. The second piece to that is, we want to raise money and grow, and we can't hit startup metrics doing consulting. And startup metrics are, some are vanity, but a lot of them are true. It's like, look, are you focused on the right things? And I don't know that I thought about it that way before, but I am thinking about that now. And then I would add one last piece, which is my piece of advice to myself, if I could go back, would be, don't start this until you have a bootstrapped MVP, that's focused on what you're pitching and the actual pitch, this labor marketplace. Still skateboard, the whole skateboard scooter thing. Like, what's the skateboard? Yeah. Get to the first skateboard before you go full time. Do it on your own. Do it on the weekends, whatever. Because like the massive, and I learned that through the massive amount of capital resource constraints. Like, I have those right now. We're always about 4 weeks from going out of business, just about. And that forced me to teach myself how to do it. And it forced us to get more focused, and it forced all those things. And it turns out I actually could have done that while I was still working somewhere. Because I would have been, okay, well, I only get 4 hours a day. I can work on this. Like, okay, well, I can, in 4 hours a day, I can get it to the skateboard, but it's just going to take me 6 months. And then I'm at the skateboard. If I brought in the same amount of money I've raised so far, we'd be a different company, completely different.
So is it fair to say or rephrase that in the way that, like, when you relax the resource constraint too soon, it enabled like a wider focus than would have actually been like max productivity too soon? Like, let you run too many experiments too soon? Okay.
Yeah, or it allows you to just not be as tight on the experiments themselves. Right. Yeah. So like maybe we flip flop between different customer segments too often for a period of time, or it's almost like, it's like we have conviction that there's this problem. We hear all these people telling us there's this problem. But if you're spending 4 hours a night or whatever, building out this little thing, you can take that and be like, now we have conviction and we have a starting point. Let's put those two things together, take that same cash, and it's not like it's a cheat code. It's just, it would have made who I hired very specific day one. Day one, I would have known what I actually needed to hire, as opposed to like hiring, well, I need somebody. Can't build this thing on my own. There's not enough time in the day. Well, I need a tech person, so I'll just get a tech person that has experience building other startups. So I'll just get that person. Well, maybe I actually wanted a tech person who had experience building, like, who may have, built an AI thing once, but his side project he built on a bunch of no code. I'd be like, oh, that guy's perfect, right? Because now I know that he can help us keep MVP in this thing on the no codes that we've already done. But when it comes down to swapping this to actual architecture, he's going to be able to build that. So yeah, I opened up the resources too soon and then had to tighten them down. And then it's been a long period of really tight resources. Always, I don't know. Anybody who's raising money right now, raise enough that everybody already said it. I heard it. My advisors say it. Raise 18 months, raise a year, raise 18 months. Yeah. I wouldn't ever raise less than that again. I wouldn't go full time until I could raise the cash to be in business with whatever team I think is actually needed to hit a goal for like 18 months.
Because you, for a long time, raised sort of more little chunks at a time. You were kind of like always fundraising, giving yourself like 2 to, I don't know what the max was at any point, like 6 months maybe of runway.
Yeah, probably the most runway we ever bought at once was, equity for cash was 6 months. And 6 months is a pretty good amount of time. But it's actually not 6 months. It's only like 3.5, because the next 2.5, you're just raising the next month or the 2 months after. And when you have employees that, they care. They want to know that you're raising that money. Yeah. They're going to still have health insurance or whatever, in 2 months. So I went lukewarm. I guess that's what it'd be. I didn't bootstrap, but I didn't raise enough to go full on. So it was lukewarm, which is a big mistake. And now, we're paying for it. Good news is we just got our first check from a bona fide venture capital firm. And I think that really comes down to the fact that we've been able to get through all of this, learn a ton. We can get into those details we mentioned, and then go, okay, well, now we're actually building procurement software for corporations so that they can get gig works out, like gig and labor out. And the labor side, literally, it's an integrity thing. It's how can we just make sure these people are vetted, pretty basically vetted, and they're all in one place, so that when you go to find them, you can just send out a message and they'll find you.
Yeah. Was the fundraising process working with a fund, like how different was that from sort of the angel money that you had raised previously?
Yeah, it was the first due diligence for sure. That was a huge difference. And I think probably that was part of the process that made me feel like if I should have done that a long time ago. I should have been ready to raise $5 million because my package is all perfect and ready to go right in the beginning, even if it, took a week to get it all ready. And then, once every 2 weeks, I was like, okay, well, I got to update these 10 things with all the stuff so that it's always kind of ready. It's almost like that's like having a boss. My boss is my due diligence package that I need to be answering to that and making sure that it looks right. How many makes you look at the financials better. Like we have an awesome finance or accounting firm, Ativo Partners, out of San Francisco. They work with just startups, venture-backed companies. They're awesome. I've worked with them at other companies before, and they do a really great job for us. But that doesn't mean that I spend the time each month to really figure out where I'm wasting money, or what I have to do to stay in business, or what my tax liability be at the end of the year. Those are all things that even the youngest startup should still think about.
Yeah, were those? I guess what were the fund's expectations of you from a collateral? I mean, you talked about the package. Is that sort of accounting statements? Is that just a deck and memo that's constantly updated? Is it a dashboard that you make available to them? What did that look like?
Yeah, this is just documents, and then I think I wrote.
Okay.
I definitely shared some memos that I wrote about different things.
Yep.
But really what it was look, this is the actual financials across the board. This is what our projections are, realistic, real projections versus hockey stick projections.
An exponential, clip.
Yeah, I mean, at this phase, and how much I'd raise, I had to have the conversation too of look, this is how far we get with this and what we're doing and how much, what we have to do in order to make this work the next time, and where we need to be by March to raise a Series seed round, and it's all stuff I talk about and think about. But when you have to hand it into the teacher, it's you gotta make sure it's right. Check your work. You have all these other people helping you, making sure that it works. Yeah.
And it always feels different to write it down than to tell yourself in your head when you're on a run or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Or write it down in a document that other people will read, as opposed to on your whiteboard or something.
Yeah. So
I mean, go ahead.
No, please continue.
I was gonna say it was one of the things that made me go, man, I don't need this office right now, And so I canceled my office, saved myself a bit of cash, and moved into this beautiful porch that I'm sitting on now. And I'm doing a hack where we're gonna put a piece of plywood behind me that has those little soft little octagons to make it look like I'm in an office, and save myself. It bought me two things. It bought me time because I walk to and from work, so it's a half hour each way. So it bought me an hour a day. And maybe I'll go for a walk, but it'll just be chilling and me thinking, as opposed to me having to walk. And then it bought me $900 a month. And it's not like I'm not employing anybody in Rochester anytime soon, so I don't need an office that fits two people. So here I am.
Cool. And it is, for the record, a beautiful porch.
Thank you.
Very nice. That. A little more family time, probably. I'm sure they're excited to have you back home.
The kids get home from school, and I can take 15 minutes and just walk downstairs, help them get a snack, smile, and that's cool. And they know that they're not supposed to come running in here, and I stay focused. I play a lot of music. It keeps me in flow mode when I'm listening to music, and obviously when I'm on a call, I pace around. My office is big enough to pace back and forth. It's actually 3 offices next to each other, so it's skinny and long because it's the whole back of my house. So
you got to do some good pacing.
Cool. Yeah, got to pace. Got to have a pace spot.
Yeah. Let's go back to the service transition. So I know I was recapping from last time, and we talked a little bit about I think our last episode was a lot about sort of the the focus on providing services, finding repeatable transactions, and enabling them with tech. So I think that's actually a really interesting sort of place to dig in about like the kind of jobs that you landed here, because you got, I mean, 110K is a lot of revenue, and like not far off. I think your goal was 200 or something in 2022, and we still got plenty of clock left from May. So I'm curious, sort of where, like, did you find those were just not repeatable? Were they super different from each other? Were they like, how was that different maybe from what you expected going in?
Yeah, so we had no go-to-market plan for that. Like I didn't plan an advertising budget. It was word of mouth and cold outreach. Well, not cold outreach, network outreach. The whole like, who do your advisors know, sort of thing.
Yeah. And you had a lot of relationships already, and these are customers you were talking to about the platform already. It's just
right, exactly. It was a bunch of customer discovery people, pretty much, that I called back, or they called me and was like, "Hey, I do need that thing." I also had a lot of success with gifting wine. Somebody who introduced me to somebody, I'd send them a bottle of wine, and then all of a sudden they'd call me back. Hey, how'd that go? Here's this other person. And then that's been a really inexpensive marketing tool.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know what the rules are on that. If it's my company, I don't know. I think you're allowed to send wine to people.
If it works and they're over 21, I think you're good.
Anything like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what? You sent a gift that was worth more than $2.50.
I think that's like the only way some of these things function. I feel like there's like SDRs out there who are like, I have been given a budget. If you literally get on a 10-minute call with me, I will send you an iPad. Here's like swag box. Here's like, please just make it look like I'm doing my job as an SDR, and that you are a warm lead. I will pay you handsomely for your time.
I need one positive quote that says you will maybe schedule a follow-up call.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you iPhone or
please,
iPad.
Yeah. It's the end of the quarter. What do you need? What do you need?
The end of the quarter emails are the best. Absolute best. Hi, I
know
really
I've emailed you 9
but I need to
times.
make money right now.
Maybe you missed my previous 8 emails on the same thread. I don't remember anymore. It was about like it was about the services, like the variety of them. What was it about them that made them sort of less repeatable or scalable or non
I think so we just got into doing the work instead of doing the connecting. So the labor side is very much still something where it's just a matching once we get it right. You need something, we find you that thing. We still were always matching like vendors to clients and so on. We worked on like a financial fraud case. We worked on security build out in a home. We worked on like a bug out thing for people, who want to be ready in case of Armageddon. Like we helped staff some events, helped staff some private security, like full-time W-2s. And across all of that stuff, it's like because of how we went to market with it, which is kind of this word of mouth, who you know thing. I didn't find out until very recently that I shouldn't have put myself in the I'm the consultant seat. I should have said, "Oh, I'm so glad you reached out to us. We know exactly who you should talk to." Because it turns out I could have charged the exact same amount that I ended up charging, except I wouldn't have had to put in 23 hours on a single project or whatever. I could have just been like, oh, and for doing that, we're going to charge you, just so you know, we're going to add 10%, blah, 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 blah. This is how our business works. And we're glad that we can find you a great vendor. Let us know if it doesn't work. We'll find you a new vendor. And we could have done the same thing in a marketplace would do, just with a little bit of white glove help. And maybe we would check in with some customer success. And on the other side, I could have gone to those vendors and been like, hey, we're going to charge you 10% as well. Just so you know, we're charging both sides, but we're charging you 10% because we like you, but we like 5 other companies too, and we want to drive business to you. And we probably could have made 20%. And I think if you look across our profit margins, we made about 20% when we added consulting hours plus the referral fees we charged. And so like maybe we just did it wrong. And at this point, like I spent so much time doing that. it just kind of came full circle where wouldn't it be easier if really we were either a catalog of vendors for people or a catalog of labor that can be used, and labor is the one we want to go after. That was our main goal. It's still it's a massive challenge. But I think I mentioned earlier, I'll tell you about some details. The details are even the best companies, they want to pay a higher rate than they've paid in the past, but not a rate high enough to make somebody move, relocate, not, maybe a gig just isn't paying quite enough. Like there's a big pay expectation misalignment because in our side where everybody we talk to is quality, even the, I guess you could say even the simpler jobs, we have the quality version of the simpler job. They have already kind of figured out ways to negotiate right now and figure out how to get paid a little bit more. And the vendors have figured out how to maybe staff something Band-Aid for a little while. And that's almost good enough that we've had a lot of misfires where we connect people that literally are exactly what we think is right. This person's vetted, perfect for it. They interview well. This person says we'll pay for it, but then when it really gets down to brass tacks, it's well, we said we pay $50 an hour, but we're only going to pay $40 an hour at first. And then the other person's well, I said I would come out there, but actually I can only come out there for 30 days at a time because I don't want to relocate for this job. And the fact that we're so early in the aggregation, we don't have labor everywhere, means that a lot of these transactions just don't happen. The amount of times that I had to text somebody back and be hey, thanks so much, but it looks like it's not going to work. We'll tell you about the next job. And that sucks.
Super sucks. After, you invested in both of those, acquiring both of the sides of that market and doing all the legwork in the middle.
For free, generally, or
for free, for free, and so that's now a loss. Yeah. And as a young marketplace, we kind of take for granted that we fear the marketplace. The marketplace has leverage over individual. A mature marketplace has leverage over individual actors. If you totally suck as an Uber driver, or crash your car, or drop somebody off the wrong way, or whatever, your career as an Uber driver is over, and that is punitive. But when you are a brand new marketplace, you can't really threaten somebody with you'll never get work from us again, and they're this is the first job I've ever done with you,
and I haven't even done it yet.
And it won't work. So it's a lot of community and relationships, and selling the vision at first, because people aren't sort of willing to give you a little goodwill, probably on both sides. It's hard to even start that flywheel.
Yeah, maybe the term goodwill is really interesting there. I think I found that the goodwill has been there all the way until the end. And then right at the end is when it usually is oh, you know what? I can't just make this decision on goodwill. I have to get paid more. I should have said that. Or I have to, that one thing I said was optional, that credentials, no, I can't even, I'm not going to staff the guy until he has that. And so, no, that doesn't fit. Or, there's these different things. It does remind me, though, a bit of a tangent. I spent some time on the phone with one of the guys that built out the, I think the West region of the company Compass, which is, the largest real estate brokerage in the world now. And he was an executive there. And he talked to me about how they went to market in specific regions, and they would find 5 or 10 influencers that would be the region, plank owners. These are the guys who are, and women who are launching that space, and they'd have to get enough people to launch it, and then they would launch it, and then people would copy them. And I've looked at that as well. It's if we get to the point where we can get the community going, we get enough signups. I think that when we put a marketing budget on it, we will be focused on specific regions where the employment law is in our favor for gig-based security work, and where the population and market is in our favor, and honestly, the security risks are high. So Illinois just passed a law that allows a lot, I think I read 50% of their jails are going to be emptied out because a lot of things that were detainable crimes aren't anymore. And so that scares a lot of people. And like, I think I read, like second degree murder was one of the ones. Like second degree murder is no longer detainable in Illinois. If I'm wrong there,
sorry, Chicago.
I don't know. Yeah, sorry, Chicago. I don't know, but I think that's true. And if that's true, that would be a great example of a market where if we use marketing dollars at the right time, we may find that a whole lot of clients show up and are like, "Hey, can I get some security? We're going to do this thing, or we're going to have this event, or maybe I'm going through a divorce and I'm like worried my spouse is going to kill me, and now that person won't get in trouble, so I want security." Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the regional influencer based, like, hey, we find a couple of the guys who everybody knows in the region. We kind of help them kick off their independent business through us and then drive clients to them would lead to some growth in a region. And then if we were regional, we might find that the marketplace, we can start to push back a little and like not be punitive per se, but say, look, if you cancel last day and you've known for 72 hours, you get penalized for 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, you're on the shit list. I Googled that real quick. When a new Illinois law takes effect next year, it will do away with the cash bail system in the state, meaning suspects charged with felonies, including second-degree murder, aggravated battery, and arson, will be released without bail.
Oh, okay. So that's not as
crazy
bad as I was thinking. It's not referring to people who are convicted. It's just talking about bail during the trial process, right?
I'm not going to read the whole article right now, so I don't know that you were wrong. All I know is that the first paragraph says what I just said. There may also be like some like early releases or whatever, maybe.
Sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into politics, but that makes a lot more sense than what I had heard. Somebody told me something. I was like, really? That sounds crazy. We're going to let all the criminals out?
Better repeat that on a podcast without fact checking it.
I'm not worried. Anybody can go check all my social media. There's 0.0000 politics on there because I'm focused on this, not that.
No, this is very dramatic news. The headline is "The End of Days."
The end of days. Wow, that is dramatic. We're not going to worry about that.
Yeah.
The country's over, everybody. Hire your private security company. Call Zach Conterra.
This is literally Armageddon.
It's funny.
No, I think that.
Go ahead.
No, what's funny?
Okay, what's funny is that like that's an actual problem in the private security space is fear mongering. There's like the top private security company, Gavin DeBecker in New York City doing executive protection. They just sold. I forgot what the announcement said. I think Crisis 24. One of the huge companies bought them, and I'm not gonna say good, bad, or ugly, whatever. But the fact is, the founder, Gavin DeBecker, writes books about how dangerous the world is for your kids. You go read one of those books, and by the end of it, you're like, oh no, they can't even go to school without a security guard. We're gonna get kidnapped on the way to school. And that's never anything that we want to be a part of. Which is a good B2B is a lot cleaner in that regard. You're not trying to scare corporate security manager. Corporate security manager already knows what their risks are. I mean, you can do a risk assessment and have a professional come in and give you, hey, here's where your risk surfaces are. This one's a little scarier than that one. Tell me what you want to do. We just want to connect the people who solve the problems you have.
Yeah, you never want to be incentivized to like create fear unnecessarily in innocent people.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to be in a fear industry.
Sociopath shit. Yeah.
That ain't me.
Yeah, I think that marketplace, the regional or city focused marketplace, that's a classic, right? Like how small can you start, build liquidity, build leverage, build a community, get some transactions done and scale up from there. And I would hope maybe, maybe there's more details there, but that would, it sounds like there's plenty of other variables, but if everybody's local, maybe you close a few more connections.
I think it's funny you said that. And it reminded me why I didn't do it before. And this is another big mistake in how I did fundraising. It's too bad capital raising has to be such a core piece of the early startup if you don't bootstrap, because it can really screw you up. But one of the reasons that we didn't go regional first is because we wanted to have more opportunities to charge people money, because that would help our runway. And so that's why it's a little lukewarm to be like, well, we're going to be national, solve everybody's problems so that when the right customer comes in the door, we can actually charge them money. And we did. But if we had gone regional, the risk would be, maybe that client that calls us is in a different state or goes to the websites in a different state and goes, oh, this is only in Chicago, so I'm not going to call Zach. So we left our options too much open, and that meant we probably, with the amount of effort we've put into some of the stuff, if we just picked a city, we probably would be like 10 times further.
Yeah, you'd be a little more maybe locked into a model. You will maybe not have learned as much or have the connections to some of the corporate stuff, which is interesting. But like, I think we made the opposite. I don't know if it was a mistake, but we did the opposite playbook. Was our sort of 2.0. We went, really one city at a time, and try to go really small and focused and build liquidity. And I think maybe erred on the side of like too few cities and too slow of growth to try to bring that along. So whatever. Startups are hard.
They really are. Oh man, corporate side, motivation has been an interesting roller coaster through all this as well, because when the direction is less obvious, there are days where like kind of you have a couple experiments going. Kurt's doing customer discovery with these types of customers. I'm like flying between different states to talk, to build relationships with enterprise customers that I know take all this extra time. And so you don't get that affirmation. And sometimes you don't get any feedback at all, or any useful feedback. The whole idea that you can never have a bad meeting, like welcome to sales. Like you'll never have a bad meeting if you know how to set a good meeting and keep a good tone. So like sometimes there's just no feedback, which is hard.
Yeah, I think when we talked offline, maybe at Capital Camp last, there was a really exciting sort of pipeline around enterprise, like big corporate enterprise stuff. Where does that sort of fit into? Like, is that part of the sort of services piece? Is that in parallel? Like, where does that fit into
So it's in parallel. So I've kept that going. It's actually grown. Some of those relationships are more mature. Some are about the same, but we've added a few more logos. I try to put a certain amount of hours every day on not some days it's only like an hour, but I try to hit those relationships every single day, on my like little CRM to make sure that I'm moving them forward, adding them. Some of the companies that I went for directly, were really, really hard to work my way up, and I've done that. So that's an exciting piece, but I just know that it doesn't matter. On the day to day, it matters if I close one, a ton. Yeah. It would completely change how we can go to market. If we can get any of the logos that I've put in real time on and know the executives of now and have been introduced to C-suites, and some of these are like $100 billion companies. If we close the deal, provide them a ton of value, and can shift a good portion of the work onto a platform or software-based, like a shift-based model or gig-based model, which I think is really possible, it would certainly speed us up, and at least I think give us the resources to hire our seed team, which I have about 8 people scoped out, and like what we would be doing and our goals, what that would be for 18 months, how much money we'd have to raise, and so on. If we got that through either raising or just through a top contract, that would shift the game. But I kind of look at them like they're unicorns. They're hard to catch.
Yeah. Is that enough? One of those to kind of flip the switch from like to default alive?
Say that again. What's the question? Default alive?
To switch to like, be like a cash flow positive company with like, if any of those sort of come through.
Yeah. They're pretty much all big enough. Other than one is almost such a pure marketplace opportunity that if we got it, it might just be that we've got, like, we actually have to kind of speed up, maybe go out to investors and be like, look, I need this right now because this customer wants to use this like 10 times a day and we need to be ready for it. But any of the other ones would be big enough of contracts that a lot of it would be services, but a lot of it is services where, for example, if you have an executive protection detail for a few top executives, maybe top executives in America, and home base, wherever they're based, is going to have a couple W-2s that kind of are their main guards, and then there's a bunch of other stuff involved. Every time they travel, they need a new vendor, a new driver, a new whatever, because of licensing in all those different places. And so these people travel all the time, and so now we've got a customer that, one, we're getting paid, let's say, a couple $1 million a year to run their whole program, and we're also using our own software to staff out everything that happens that's temporary. So we would be cash flow positive for that period of time and probably be able to prove out, like, eat our own dog food to the point where we could then raise the cash to be like, okay, now we're going to take this and we're going to go sell it to 40 other companies like this one.
Yeah. And at the same time, building up your supply side, especially if you've got a variety of jobs that come in there. I remember, I think the biggest lesson from our second episode, which still kind of stuck with me as really interesting, is that, on the supply side, the workers, the vendors, don't want to join an empty marketplace. They don't sign up in the absence of like unless there's an immediate job to do that they are like signing up in order to fulfill. So I think that's that's why some of these contracts are so valuable. But as you sort of look at, I think earlier on you said like a focus for the next couple of months is going to be to sort of rebuild that community and use the new website that you have built to sort of start a staff or start bringing those people on and filling that again. Are you going to have a different approach? Do you feel like these services are giving you enough to be like the bait on that hook? Like, has anything changed there?
Yeah, so a couple things changed. One is we've just been in business for a year, which really has had a lot of impact on the folks that I talk to. Their trust of me has gone up a lot because I've been around, and they've talked to their friends or whatever. A bunch of people call me, hey, help me. I would love to go get an executive protection. What do I got to do? That kind of thing. So that's helpful. The second is I've gotten better and better at pitching myself to these vendors and some of the larger companies as well. And then when they trust me, they'll send me people. They'll be like, hey, here's a bunch of guys that could use this or want to use that. The next is, I think with this new launch, we're going to not ask for as much information. That was a big, like, we were asking for so much information the first time that we could like almost staff you. We could like almost literally be like, look, we've got everything we need. Thanks. We'll call you when the job's ready. Yeah.
Fill out your whole LinkedIn, resume, everything.
Yeah, just it's all your government background as well, and certs and stuff. Like, we're going to make you do a lot of work for no reason, and then maybe we'll call you. So that was wrong. Obviously, I learned that. The other way to do it that we're looking at now is we've got this whole job board that is better than any of the other, has more jobs on it from more sources than the other job boards in the space. And then what we're doing is going to say, okay, cool. You could be John Doe at email.com or whatever. Well, I'm sure we'll have it verified, but maybe not at first. I don't know. Yeah. It's not, currently it's not. So there you go. Everybody knows that secret. You'll sign up and it's like, okay, well, now we have an email that we can send some things to, or they can opt out of the job updates that we'll send once a week or whatever. But they have to use that to log in. So then we can track who the user is, what they're doing. And then they can save jobs to their favorites and all that kind of stuff. Right. But then we'll say, okay, cool. But if you want to get discounts on, all this cool guy stuff and tactical stuff and things that go along with it, because, I've got a bunch of folks and friends in affiliate marketing, so I've been learning a little bit about that. We'll say, you can get access to that, but you have to get vetted first. We need to know that you are whether or not you're law
you say you are.
enforcement or former spec
in
ops
the crew.
or you're civilian or what your thing is. And based on that, you're going to get access to all these different tiers of discounts and different things. And we'll do deals of the week and, the whole nine. And so I'm kind of hoping that helps people get across the data entry. And we're still not going to ask for too much because I'm realizing that when the connection happens, either they're already directly having to prove this stuff to the hiring manager, or if they're asking me to make the intro because we want to have a little button for that, we'll get on the call and we'll verify it all, or we'll verify it all once they pass.
Once you're asked to in the context
once we're
of
asked to do it, and then. If it gets to scale, we'll use something like HireView or whatever it's called to do the first 5 questions, or we'll do something that, hey, once there's a match, then we'll ask you for more, and then we'll figure out if people churn off of that, at what stage. But we were just way ahead of ourselves the first round. Now it's just a skateboard. Here's a job board. Cool. Now it's a better job board than any other job board in this niche. Cool. Now we're going to give you discounts because we know you like these types of jobs. We know you like this kind of stuff. Sign up for it. And then I'd have to look at my roadmap. That was another thing that I did for the first time. I've done it before a little bit whiteboard, but I did some actual, customer story work and following that. And so we have, a whole lot of features that we could add one at a time that make it more useful for this side of the market. And then eventually we can let vendors probably at first, I think the first thing for vendors is just letting them post jobs and then having a approval process for that. So they can have a job, but I or Kurt or somebody has to approve it so that it doesn't just go live. People aren't, posting pictures of their cats on our job board.
Yeah.
Or worse, an OnlyFans situation. Don't want that.
You're going to sign up to vet all those photos. Yeah. Something I wasn't super worried about the professionalism of the security contractor.
I don't know a lot about
niche
security, but other folks do, and they tell me you really want to prevent people from being able to put things on your website.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we had some of those. I mean, home services marketplace, and we had some things that had to be removed.
Yep. That one right there. Let's slow that down.
Yeah, that's not a hammer. What do the discounts have to do? How does that fit in? The affiliate marketing discount thing feels like it's a little bit of a branching path.
It's one example. It'll be an experiment. We'll see, but it's not to make money. So the only reason they're affiliates is because that a lot of these folks already have programs, so that we can go in and talk to them and say, hey, we want to do this, but we want to give our people a discount. They're vetted. How's that sound? Because they already have programs, I don't have to go do one at a time sales. If it works, then maybe we'll go and actually build relationships with the folks. What we're trying to do is just create an incentive that you give us more information. So and to come back to the job board. So you're... And some of that isn't because you're you might say, well, why do you want them to come back to the job board if they already have a job? And we want them to come back to the job board to know that we're alive. We want them to know that this website is actually getting updated every day, and the deals are changing and things. And so it's just a way to drive people to us to say, look, you can see jobs. Once you're vetted, we're trying to give you benefits. So here's some discounts. Maybe we'll link you to training, just whatever we can to have a reason to do the second level of sign up.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe
and
I guess it depends.
If you have other better ones.
I guess it depends what you're envisioning, going on there. But you've talked before about sort of helping these security pros sort of level up in their. You can get this certification and now you can earn $25 an hour, or you can, train on this equipment or go through this, experience or gain this credential. Those are all sort of interesting things that are more on theme. But you probably have a much clearer picture of what is behind that wall.
Well, and the industry, especially when you step away and a little bit from the top tier, the industry is full of folks who are really interested in guns and in Second Amendment stuff and in, you know, a bunch of those little items. And we hope that they keep coming back and want it. But then the other side is like, even, you know, Navy SEAL gets out of the Navy, wants to go do exec protection. He still has to get certified. So maybe you sign up and we say like, cool, get vetted and we'll connect you to the CPR program that works in California and the, you know, BCIS program that'll help you get your 8-hour course online here. And like, you know, these are the table stakes and you can go do it somewhere else, but here's a way that you can save $5 doing it through getting vetted.
And getting it all in one place. And yeah.
And like this stuff's pretty simple, but it's not simple if you don't know it, I guess, if you don't know where to find it. Yeah.
You need somebody to sort of introduce you to the world and show you the 1, 2, 3.
Because it could just be a blog post, but I don't know. Guys like to save a lot of money. People, like everybody in my entire SEAL team signed up for ProMotive when it existed. Like everybody.
What was ProMotive?
ProMotive, and it's been bought by one of the other ones. It's like you get vetted into some type of professional, and then you get discounts based on that. So if you're in construction, you would get like toolboxes. If you're, it's funny. The stuff we got was like Black Diamond skis. I don't know. It was hilarious stuff. It was all like outdoor gear. And I was like, man, I'm really glad that this fits in. I think they just want cool guys to wear their brand, right? They're creating brand ambassadors by giving us 5% off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same deal that everybody else gets in the mail.
Fit guys
anyway.
with great beards using my skis. I mean, that probably works.
Yeah. Hell,
It's
if I was selling skis, I'd be doing
program.
It.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe not, but
okay.
Maybe I would.
You mentioned in the beginning, under sort of the focus piece, firing a customer, and I want to sort of revisit that story and that decision and how that went.
Yeah, so firing a customer is definitely, you know, it's a term that I've heard other people use, and I use it to like make it a bigger moment for me. It wasn't like a full-on event. We're just like, hey, we're just not going to provide that service anymore, right? Like, you know, sorry, like let us know. We'll still try to help you. We can maybe point you in the right direction, but we're not going to do that. And what it came down to is just B2C, and we wanted to have more of a B2B focus. And part of that is because the B2B stuff we did, even though it was a lot of work, paid us a lot. The B2C stuff, you know, a lot of folks don't, even super wealthy folks don't really have budgets for it. So you have to like sell and convince and honestly, even if they really want to buy, which is the case with everybody we've talked to, we've definitely been early adopter style. These are folks who really want to buy stuff from us. They want to get consulting from us. It just would take a lot of time to figure out what they actually wanted to pay for. And what they actually wanted to do, and not their fault. They had to like figure it out themselves. Like, I want that, but really I want this other thing. And well, maybe we'll do that. And the timing shifts. And that's worth it if you can get a $50,000 deal, but for a $5,000 deal that you only get 10% of, like, we could have done that a different way. And so the firing of the customer was more of a big deal to be like, we don't do any customers like that anymore. Okay. We don't do that because, and we won't do that sort of thing because we on a whiteboard can write down the value and it's just not worth it. Like we're not learning enough from that.
We don't like losing money. So we're going to stop doing that.
We don't like losing money. And if we are going to lose money, we're going to learn from people who someday will pay us a lot of money. And the consumer just, I had another friend call me up recently with an idea that was selling into the same space. And I was just like, man, tell me how you're going to find those people. And once you have a list of 100, then maybe go consider it. Until then, take that same idea and sell it to a business as a budget.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's not to say it's hard to say no to revenue. When you're a startup and you don't have any, and it, you know, it takes a lot of, it takes the math and the insight to say like, man, this is honestly how much effort went into closing this deal and very honestly how much profit came out of it. And on the other hand, I put, 2x the hours into this, but got 10x the profit out of the deal. And, we can't afford to keep honestly, doing that. And
And for one of those customers, so in this case, to be like, one of the things that I've realized is, and this happened across both the services back to software choice and the firing the customer choice. What it came down to is I saw a better business to solve that problem. The better business to do some of the services we were doing at the point where we weren't learning versus the amount of time was to go start that business. Oh, I'm going to go start a security company. And then I thought, well, I wouldn't do that. No way. It's way too hard. It would take me 20 years. It's super fragmented. It's hard to differentiate, all this sort of stuff. Oh, I'll just go buy a security company. I could buy a security company probably if I went to it, I raise a search fund for security companies. I mean, there's definitely a thesis. Security I think is going to explode over the next 10 years, 20 years. But I don't want to do that right now. That's not what I signed up for. It's not what I told my investors I'm doing. Like, we're connecting, we're helping labor. Our goal is to help 1 million workers live better lives in the security industry by reducing complexity and cost. That meant back to software. We got to get back to the platform that connects people. And then for the customer firing, it was the same thing. It was like, look, if I wanted to serve this type of customer, I would start an authority site on all this kind of stuff, and I would refer this customer to a bunch of really cool shit that solves these problems for them, and I would get affiliates on it.
Yep. And that'd be a much lighter weight model, and both of those are closer to bootstrap, not what you raise money for, not the big marketplace vision.
I don't think you'd raise money for either. I mean, again, if you're going to go buy something that already has $1 million in revenue or something, then maybe you could raise money for that or take a loan. But like, certainly the authority site, there's no, it's hard to see how that turns into a $1 billion business. Yeah.
Okay. So let's sort of wrap up with, some of like the, I don't know, maybe the more broad, like lessons learned or patterns observed. So we talked a lot about sort of what you've maybe changed your mind on, or how the tactics have changed. But what's some of the stuff that, I think you wrote here, you might have others, but in one of your notes, you sent me a bias for action mixed with patience. What's the right cocktail there?
Yeah. So I think the startup method that is talked about is to hurry up. Just, you're always going as fast as you can for growth. And I think what I would tell people who don't have product market fit is don't hurry up. Take it slow. Make sure you're whether you're bootstrapping or raising money, whatever you're doing has enough of a runway to be able to take it slow. But that doesn't mean you're not working hard all the time.
Right.
It's you've got a full bias for action where you're taking as much action every day to get there, but it's going to take a long time, and you need to know that, believe that you're not going to find it. It's not going to like just pop up day one. And if it was, you already have it. Like that. I don't know. That's the whole product market fit challenge, right? And then you have a different business. It's like, okay, I have product market fit. Now it's how do we grow it? Et cetera. Like with Zarly, I haven't studied the business well, but it seems to be that there's some level of product market fit with marketplaces that connect plumbers and so on. Like there's people want that, plumbers want that. So instead it's 1,000 other things you have to figure out on how to make sure that you can connect those people fast enough. Liquidity's there. There's, quality's there. And like, you've got all these other things. But when you don't have a product market fit yet, you got to slow down. It's not a rush. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I was just reading something that I think rhymes with this idea, and I hadn't heard it said this way before, but I think it's a helpful way to think about it. It's just a little bit counterintuitive, or maybe counter to what people think the startup world is like. So Clayton Christensen wrote it, and I think it was smart capital, wise capital is impatient for profits first, and then once there are profits, you're impatient for growth, and you're like choosing where your emphasis is. So like, I'm patient for growth in the very beginning and impatient for profits. And that is like, I think a not startup-y way, but to say find product market fit, execute transactions that are net positive, And a lot of times I think in a startup or a SaaS company, like the business models are such that they're not profitable at the company level, but they're either, they're deals with good gross margin, or they are sort of unit economic profitable, or they're getting a bunch of eyeballs. But there's very few businesses that are truly like loss, grow, like Facebook, become profitable in year 10. Like that's extremely rare. And I just thought that was a helpful way to think about it.
Facebook, it's that way because it was ads. It's like, it was pretty obvious. Like you get enough eyeballs, then you can turn on revenue.
And that there's network effects in there. So don't turn on, don't scare away new users until you have the lock-in of the network effect.
Yeah, you can't leave
in marketplaces.
This is the place.
Yeah, marketplaces have some of that. It's an interesting mix of like, there is the network effect at scale. So you really need to keep growing. And so the growth is important from that perspective, but also like you got to know that you can execute individual profitable deals in order to sort of get there, and that both sides are excited to keep coming back, and you can acquire those customers profitably. And that's hard as shit. It's really hard. It's hard to even know, to be honest.
And it is cool because the closest thing to that I've had, it really just comes, for me, it's unit economics. And that's why a bunch of the services turned out to be like, look, we're not going to do this. The unit economics is not there. The best ones are like a public company called us and needed, like they were threatened by somebody, and they needed, for a board meeting, the bad guy knew where the board was when the meeting was going to happen. This is a pretty direct threat. And so they're like, look, we need armed guards. That's what they wanted, some armed guards. And they needed a little bit of education on what was allowed and not allowed in that geolocation. They also needed some education on like how it works. Like if there's a real threat, like no vendor on the planet's going to send you one person. Like they won't do it. They'll send you at least two, because they have to be able to protect each other. And like, you're not hiring Jason Bourne here. These are just like, these are folks that are like out in the open. Like you got to be able to do it right. So there's a little education there. Took no time. And I ended up paying like 4 middlemen or something by the time this was over. But within 3 hours, we had 2 armed pros at that boardroom. And like that, the unit economics were there. We charged a lot. I mean, we charged a really good profit margin on that. Like, I don't know, maybe it was more than 50%. And it took obviously less than 3 hours. And so on. The quality was there, and we got good feedback from everybody involved, and like I was like, man, this is it. But then like, how do I drive that deal flow right now? When if the next person calls, I might not be able to fill that. That one worked, but like I don't have like. I think that, and then every time that somebody takes a job, I'm really happy. So I think with this new refocus, if we can get the job board going and then have a reason that people give us more info, which maybe just having the job board will be enough, and people will be like, cool, I'll vet. So you send me jobs that actually fit my filters. If we can get to the point where we then add the gig board, which is separate than the job board, and then when the gig board happens, it like notifies people in that location or something, and we start seeing that work where those folks are calling up the hiring manager and being like, hey, I can do it. Like then we might have something.
Cool. Man, it's the rate of learning in a startup is quite something.
It's insane.
Which is what this series has all been about, man. It's so crazy to see how many things change and how much new information arises, and just Taylor Pearson, who I've done an episode with, always says like reality has a surprising amount of detail, and even you've spent your career in this industry. There's so many, and every time you get closer and closer to a deal or a new market or a new customer, like new surprises emerge, new I don't know, complexities sort of arise. You're like, dude, shit. Which is why the focus is so important. Like, find a narrow thing, find your niche, and keep getting better at it, and know more of those details than anybody else.
Yeah, and like, if there's one thing that I'm more bullish on than ever, it's this industry, how messed up it is, and how much some of these solutions would help. And I think I don't know. I don't know if I would give myself an A+ or a C- as far as like a founder over the last 14 months. Like, it's hard to understand that, like how to grade yourself in this period. But I'm hoping, and I feel pretty confident that I've learned enough now, and we've learned enough now that we can like just grind out the pieces that we really think work, the value that we really think is right, and other than if we close a multi-million-dollar deal, not get distracted again.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, it's a huge pleasure to be along for the journey with you. Do you want to, you feel like you can, just like, what is your optimistic or sort of like ideal scenario for, 4 to 6 months, maybe for our next conversation? Like, what do you hope to be reporting?
I would really like to have a cadence going where we have a live usable product, a usable web app, because we're still on Webflow, that is getting new features released on a schedule. That alone would make me really happy, because that means that we have users that are doing something. The sales in air quotes is like, I'm going out and getting users. People are signing up and looking at jobs, and we've created some level of tech movement that either me or a 1099 or somebody is moving it forward one step at a time. I think that'll show the maturity that we need, and hopefully have the user base to raise capital to hire a bigger team and go, or it will be learning enough to be like, well, we got to keep doing it this way for another 6 months,
Yep.
We'll see.
And I'll be keeping my fingers crossed for you for landing one of those big contracts for the that enterprise pipeline to come through. I know those are unicorns, but
I know we're
tease me, Zach.
I'll tease you on 2 of them. So 2 newer ones. One would bring us back to like the original dream of before the original pitch of the original company, which is some international stuff. If we get that, it would be epic. Be a wonderful way to build a ton of credibility with a lot of folks, and it's really straightforward. It's like we know exactly what the credentials are that need to be met, and it's staffing. So that would be cool, because we would use the platform to do it. And you couldn't get an interview without signing up and doing it the right way and going through our program. And then the other one is interesting because it would pay really well. It's for a $50 billion company. It would be at their headquarters, but it would be the mid to lower paid folks, which it's interesting because the deal would be big enough that it would be like fully worth it, and the profit margin would be there, which would be a great reason to test, because I want to test, but I haven't shifted to it. I want to test if, the most churn in the industry happens at the bottom, like 300%. It's, people are swapping jobs or finding a new job or leaving every 4 months. So like that seems like a place that even the W-2s are mostly gig workers. And so if we could figure out that, it'd be really interesting, because that's a tough problem. But, I also, that would, for me to do that without having cash, like without having a real reason to do it, would be like literally starting a staffing company for 6 months, which I can't handle.
Those are interesting, because that last opportunity is interesting, because that's kind of a built-in regional focus, that gets you some liquidity.
It'd be a
gets
regional
you some stuff
liquidity.
in one place.
Like, oh man, it'd be really fun to do it that way.
Other contracts there, sort of build that density. So that's cool, man. I'm still so grateful for your willingness to kind of bring us along and be show up and transparent and honest, and I'm just glad you're
therapy
tackling
for me too.
this
It's
problem.
fun to get on here.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else you wanna give us, or should we sign off and see you in a few months? And you could give us homework too. Let us know. Should we be like texting, proactive reference checking for you with some like chief security officers or anything? Should we like write a congressman? Like, what's our?
Yeah, I if anybody knows any decision making security managers, corporate security leaders that any company in America. Happy to talk to them. But honestly, right now, this is a product focused grind, right? We need to grind out this this basic piece of software. We've already in our network, we have enough people that we can get it in front of, that we should get the early signups and then figure out how we're going to do that and grow it. So right now it's just kind of cool. I play music every day and I try to get into flow because I'm a 2022 founder engineer.
Webflow black belt. Yeah.
Webflow. And hey, if it all goes to complete shit, I'll just start a YouTube channel where I teach people how to use Webflow. Kidding.
Oh, I'm signed up. I don't know shit about how to use Webflow, but I need to learn. So you're an inspiration
easy.
On that front too.
Yeah, it really is easy. It's funny on the worst days. You're like, man, I could just start a consulting company and do Webflow for 3 months. But
it does feel like one of those crazy arbitrages, man. There's so much value to be unlocked in some of those no code tools in like the businesses that are just sort of slightly tech laggards.
Yeah, and you still go to like book a vacation with a certain company or like buy something and you can't even use their website, and you're like, oh my goodness, I should call these people and tell them I'll do it for like $1,000. Get it done in one day.
So much opportunity out there, man. Yeah. So much. Yeah.
So much opportunity to no, it's really not, guys.
But no, we need to stay focused. Focus. Yep. All right, man. Cool. Thanks so much for taking the time. Talk again soon.
Yeah. Cool. See ya.